Hello everyone, Other Helmet Guy here. Today I want to talk about Yamcha from Dragon Ball, and why he has far more potential than people give him credit for, especially if he had his own spin-off as the main character. While I've always preferred the original Dragon Ball for its focus on martial arts and grounded storytelling, I understand why the later series resonated so strongly with audiences. That shift in tone is exactly why Yamcha stands out as a character worth re-examining. Yamcha is one of those characters who is incredibly flexible, to the point where his development could grow in almost any direction. He isn't tied down by strict roles, major relationships, or long-term story packages, which means he could be placed almost anywhere in the Dragon Ball Z universe without it feeling forced. Because he's so detached from the core Z fighters, Yamcha has quietly become one of the most underrated underdogs in the series. What really supports this is how grounded his growth has always been. Unlike characters who rely on transformations or sudden power spikes, Yamcha's progress comes from martial arts fundamentals, movement, timing, control, and efficiency. His improvement is steady rather than explosive, but that makes it more adaptable to different types of stories. Yamcha is also far more strategic than his reputation suggests. He adjusts his approach based on the opponent, fights cautiously when needed, and relies on awareness rather than brute force. Techniques like the Spirit Ball demand focus and battlefield control, highlighting a level of battle IQ that the series rarely gives him time to showcase. Because of this, Yamcha's potential was never about becoming the strongest fighter in the room. It's about refinement, adaptability, and smart combat decision-making. Those strengths make him perfect for stories that focus on tactics and martial arts skill rather than pure power scaling, an area where his character has been consistently underused. The problem is that Yamcha eventually became treated more like a meme than a character. One moment in particular, his defeat against the Saibaman, ended up defining his entire reputation. That single battle, where the Saibaman self-destructed, didn't just defeat Yamcha in the story, it effectively froze his character development moving forward. From that point on, the series repeatedly leaned into that moment as a punchline. Every time Yamcha appeared, it wasn't to highlight his skills or growth, but to reinforce an old joke. This shift in how he was portrayed prevented him from being taken seriously, and in turn, limited his ability to remain relevant as the series evolved. Instead of allowing Yamcha to recover, adapt, or grow from that loss, the Dragon Ball series used it as a running gag. Over time, this damaged his reputation as a capable fighter and reduced a once promising martial artist into comic relief. The result wasn't just a loss of power relevance, but a loss of character respect, something far harder to rebuild than strength alone. Another major issue I have with the Dragon Ball series, particularly from Z through to Super, is how power levels gradually began to undermine the importance of fights themselves. As the series progressed, strategy, technique, body type, weight, martial arts discipline, teamwork, and overall battle IQ became far less important than a single factor, whose number was higher. In the later series, it often feels like characters no longer need to properly defend themselves or adapt in combat. Raw ki output and higher power levels make them unnaturally durable, allowing them to tank attacks without consequence. Destructive power becomes the deciding factor, rather than how a fight is approached or won. Because of this shift, martial arts fundamentals slowly lose their relevance. Teamwork rarely matters unless it comes from other Saiyans, and if you aren't a Saiyan with access to constant transformations, you're effectively pushed to the sidelines. Skill, planning, and technique are replaced by rage boosts, sudden flashbacks, or brand new transformations that exist purely to win the fight. Instead of battles being resolved through intelligence, experience, or cooperation, they often come down to new hair colors and inflated power numbers. That's one of my core frustrations with Dragon Ball, not that power exists, but that power eventually outweighs everything else, leaving characters like Yamcha with no space to remain relevant. I remember a moment in one of the Dragon Ball films where Vegeta points out something important about Jiren. He explains that Jiren isn't stronger because of God Ki or some special shortcut, but because of how efficiently he uses his own power. His control over his Ki, the balance between input and output, is far sharper and more refined than Goku and Vegeta's at that time. What makes this stand out is that there isn't actually a massive gap in raw power between them. The difference comes down to control, discipline, and understanding how to use strength properly. Jiren's ability to fight at that level comes from intense training, meditation, and self-mastery rather than transformations or borrowed power. That moment proves something important. You don't need to be a Saiyan, use God Ki, or rely on shortcuts to reach extreme levels of strength. Jiren shows that any mortal can become incredibly powerful through pure hard work, control, and focus. It reinforces the idea that power in Dragon Ball doesn't always have to come from labels or transformations, it can come from mastery. A lot of Yamcha's stagnation comes from self-doubt, and that self-doubt can be traced back to a specific moment. When he trained in the gravity room and tried to measure himself against Vegeta, he wasn't just pushing his limits, he was comparing himself to someone operating on a completely different scale. That comparison broke his motivation. Instead of finding his own path to strength, Yamcha gave up on trying to catch up, believing there was no point. And that's the real waste. Yamcha didn't need to surpass Vegeta, he needed to grow in his own direction. Unlike Saiyans, his strength was never meant to come from brute force power jumps or transformations, but from refinement, technique, and mastery. If Yamcha had continued training on his own terms, the possibilities were endless. He could have traveled to other worlds, trained under different gods, aliens, or martial arts masters, and expanded his skill set beyond what we've seen. Techniques like the Wolf Fang Fist could have been refined into a far more precise and devastating style, targeting pressure points and weak spots rather than relying on raw force. His Spirit Ball alone had massive untapped potential. It could have grown larger, more destructive, perhaps even rivaling something on the scale of a Spirit Bomb, while still retaining its unique advantage, full control and manipulation in battle. On top of that, Yamcha could have developed entirely new abilities, such as a partial transformation that enhances his speed, instincts, and strength, leaning into the wolf aspect of his fighting style. Instead of copying techniques like the Kamehameha, Yamcha could have created a signature move that truly defined him. His growth didn't need shortcuts, God Ki, or rage boosts, just commitment to his own path. Had he continued evolving this way, Yamcha could have realistically become one of the most powerful humans in the universe, not by matching Saiyans, but by mastering what made him different. This discussion doesn't end with Yamcha. In the next video, I'll be focusing on Tien, the master of technique, and Chaozu, whose psychic abilities were never fully explored. That's coming up next. At the end of the day, Yamcha was never lacking potential, he was lacking opportunity. And that's what makes his story worth revisiting. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.